Welcome to the Dumb Idea Podcast with Mike and Alex. Thank you for joining us, and we hope you enjoy the show. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share this video or podcast on any platform that you're listening on. Please visit us at www.dumbideapodcast.com. All right, welcome back to another episode. Today we have a guest for this episode. We want to talk, and we've tried to mention this before, that we wanted to talk about the effects of COVID restrictions on small business in the area. And so today we're lucky enough to have Danielle Lawrence, who owns DANIE Photography, and the website is daniephotograhy.com. If you need any photo sessions done, reach out to her. She does my own family's photography sessions. I believe she did Mike's.
Yep, she did us too.
Plus
the boys.
Yeah, they were great.
I think she does almost everyone we know. Works great with kids. So if you got little kids, reach out to her and set up an appointment to get your photos done. Before we get into that, we're going to talk about private internet access. They're sponsoring this episode again. Go to our website, dumbideapodcast.com. Click on the link. Sign up for your VPN, which is private internet access. At this point, it's almost a need if you do shopping online, which I know I do a ton of. Protect your credit card information. Credit cards are going on the dark web. People are getting them. They don't even need your card. They just need your number. They can create the card on their own and use it. And by the time you figure it out, you got to hope that your credit card company will give you that money back. So protect yourself, protect your identity online, especially with everyone out there snooping on you and trying to get your information. So go to dumbideapodcast.com, click on the PIA logo on the side, and go sign up. It's as little as $1.89 a month, or even if you pay full price, I think it's $2.50 a month. So run it over there and sign up for private internet access. All right, now we've wanted to do this show, I think, for at least 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, it's been a minute. So
and
I'm talking about it.
Unfortunately, so our schedules really didn't match up, but we finally got her here.
Yay!
And we wanted to talk about various stages of COVID, and the restrictions. So when COVID first started, it became a thing. It was like March is when everyone kind of, all right, the panic set in. Time to see what we can do. The restrictions they put on businesses, some business owners weren't very happy about that. Do you remember the restriction? This is almost 2 years ago. Do you remember the restrictions that they put on you at the time? And were you able to work through them? Or did you kind of have to shut down for a while and kind of refigure things out?
Well, obviously, all the venues and restaurants. So as far as the wedding side of my business, I mean, that just shut right down. I mean, you weren't allowed large groups, even small groups. You weren't allowed in public. You were staying home. So family sessions were all canceled. You had no clue when things were getting rescheduled and opening back up. Weddings were canceled with multiple end dates. We weren't even quite sure when it's going to happen. So we definitely had to kind of think about where our business was going. Where my business, it was kind of like open-ended. I had no clue.
So obviously, I mean, the weddings, most of them are inside, especially during the winter time. But even in the summertime, I guess the wedding venues, some of them were inside. So almost all your wedding business kind of went away.
Oh yeah, I had a wedding March 30th or March 23rd that got rescheduled to May because of the restriction, and we didn't even have the wedding until July. It was rescheduled 2 more times during that closure, and we were put on. We weren't even allowed to photograph families. We weren't even allowed to go to homes. We were told we were non-essential, which is true.
So did that affect your outdoor sessions too?
Sure. I wasn't allowed to be within the 6 foot different distance. I wasn't allowed to. They told us specifically at one point, because so many photographers wanted to do these porch portraits. You know, everybody was at home. We were hunkering down. It was a really unique situation, and they first started it as a way to raise money, but then as a business owner, you couldn't do something like that for money. You couldn't even photograph someone for free. They just told you to stay away. You weren't allowed. In Anne Arundel County specifically, called out photographers and said, nope, you cannot do this yet. I think it was June 30th when we finally got the go-ahead that we could come out of our homes and start shooting again.
Right. That was odd because even early on, they said basically that COVID couldn't be really contracted outdoors because of the UV light from the sun. Basically, the sunlight really didn't allow transmission outdoors, which is why now in the winter months they say, yeah, if you're like over the holidays, they're like, if you're indoors, you should wear a mask too, over the even when you're visiting your family, because they say indoors is where it gets transmitted. But back then, outdoors was almost already known. It was one of the very first things they kind of put out there, that the UV light from the sun killed the COVID virus, the SARS virus. So it was odd that they basically kind of told you guys for 3 months that you can't operate even outdoors.
Yeah.
That was strange. I'm
Well,
kind of interested.
yeah, because they really early on they kind of figured out that it didn't do well outside, and that so two things they kind of eliminated right off the break was outdoor transmission, and then surface contamination as a vector of transmission. But they kept on with it, and I think that's one of the things that, and I don't own a business, but as just a person was frustrating because like this information is coming out, but the policies never changed. They just stuck to it, and I can only imagine if that's affecting your livelihood, and then you see like, well, it doesn't. It's not, in Florida,
Yeah.
the rates of transmission go up in the summertime because it's so hot, everyone goes inside.
Right.
And then it goes down in the winter. Well, up in the north, it's opposite because we go inside in the winter, and that's when it gets spread about.
Right.
And for especially outdoor venues and things like that, and then whoever determined what was essential and what wasn't was, liquor stores were essential, which they were.
Right. Yeah. Especially you're at home with your family all the time.
But your
liquor.
business is essential to you. If I have a comic book store, that's how I make my money. That's essential to me.
Well, if you think about it, I consider myself sort of a visual historian. Mm-hmm. I'm there to protect our families in photos to be shown for generations to come. So here you are, you're not essential.
Right.
You're not essential, which I get it. I wasn't there protecting the public. I wasn't there, helping in healthcare. I wasn't there educating our children. But there were births and deaths. There were instances where families wanted a photo and the grandparent was in a nursing home and they know that grandparent was on borrowed time and they couldn't even take a photo with that grandparent. Yeah. You never have that photo because that grandparent has since passed away, especially the ones that have passed away during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was also weird that photographers were considered non-essential, wedding venues non-essential, DJs obviously, like almost the entire wedding industry. Let's just take that industry. They're not essential. Walmart was essential. Walmart didn't close. Target didn't close.
Right.
So shopping for general goods and services, because you can, your necessities, you can get almost all your necessities at the grocery store.
But in the beginning, Target didn't allow you to go in certain sections. You were allowed to go into health and beauty, and you were allowed to, meaning, like cold medications and things that you needed, and you were allowed to go to the food section. But they closed off. You weren't allowed to go get
Like if you wanted
clothing.
to buy a set of Legos, you couldn't do that.
I was dying to just go in the clothing section while grabbing my bread and milk and toilet paper, but
Walmart didn't do that. So that was a Target decision.
Okay, sure.
Or like when we went to Costco didn't close down sections.
You still buy your 75-inch TV and your hot dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you're there for hot dogs, you might as well get the TV too. Especially if you look, TV sales probably went through the roof because everyone was like, "Well, I'm going to be in my house for a while. Let me get that 75-inch."
Yeah.
And watch some of these movies because movies were going direct to streaming platforms, so people were going to get to watch movie theater movies on their 75-inch TV that they just bought with their new Disney Plus subscription, which just happened to come out at the beginning of the pandemic. What timing that was, right? Never mind. Speaking of, like, I don't want to get off track, but I'm going to. Disney Plus came out. When it first came out, I think it was $5.99 a month. You got Disney Plus, Hulu Plus, ESPN Plus, all three. Mm-hmm. Want to know what that costs now?
What's that?
$15.
Yeah.
It only tripled in price. So it sucked people in because all those media models. It's the same for your phone, cable company, and TV services like Netflix and Hulu and all them. They get you in on the teaser rate. You want to know why? Because 75% of the people after the teaser rate is over will stay regardless of what the price is. It's based on research that they've done over the years. It's the same. It's like, why do they we switched from AT&T to Verizon recently. They gave us $800 to pay off each of our phones, and another $800 to pay off anything else from our old contract with AT&T.
That's amazing.
They basically bought us out,
right,
and then gave us phones just to switch over. And they also threw in Disney Plus. They also threw in like some Google. Like we got like 3 additional services thrown in because they know that after a year or two, we're 75% more likely to stay with them than we are to switch. The fact that we switched from AT&T to Verizon makes us an outlier in the industry.
Brilliant psychology in that marketing team.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Sure.
Well, I'm still paying for. I think I bought MLB extra innings for the phone to shut a kid up at the diner. It was like I can't see the game, and he's losing his mind. So I'm like, okay, oh, what is it? The teaser rate's 99 cents. Oh, okay, I'm still paying for it.
Yep.
There's no baseball being played right now. It's January, but I'm still paying.
You're still paying for it.
Oh yeah,
we're still paying for ABC Mouse.
Oh,
both my kids can probably read. Both my kids are probably reading. Like they're above ABC Mouse level. I think we got it in 2019. Started because when the kids were going to be home, we had one of ours is going into kindergarten. So like, well, let's get her reading eggs from ABC Mouse. $20 a month. We're still paying it.
I think
she's in school now.
I'm going to start a business. It's going to be a teaser rate, and I'm going to go write some algorithm. I'm going to go through your bank account and figure out all the stuff that you're paying for. And then you're going to forget about it and keep paying me.
Nice.
So there
is a service, isn't there?
It was the Ashton Kutcher thing. It was his. He was the spokesperson for it, where they go into you give them access to your bank account, and they find out what you're paying on a recurring basis, and they say you could save $30 a month if you cancel this, and this. Do you want us to cancel it for you? And you just got to give them a cut. But they'll call. They do all the whatever they do. Their back end of it, they cancel all your subscriptions.
Yeah, except the subscription to their subscription.
Right. No, you can't do that. No, you got to keep them.
But to get back kind of on our track, because
welcome to the meandering that's happening.
It's all worked.
So when you think about these weddings, so one of my wife's friends was supposed to get married. I think she was going to get married sometime in June or August of 2020. The wedding got canceled and rescheduled numerous times. And then it actually got so bad that they have since gotten married at the courthouse and had a kid. And they still haven't had their wedding yet. We're supposed to go to it. I think it's in April or May sometime. We'll be going to that wedding. Should be fun. But we're looking at 2 years almost out. So when it comes to rescheduling this stuff, if you have you schedule a wedding and then it gets canceled. So I imagine there's deposits and stuff that all have to be arranged, or they keep you, but then trying to reschedule you later, because everyone once everything opens back up, boom, they're going to get scheduled again. Plus the ones that are going on then.
Yep.
It just sounds like a complete disaster.
I mean, as far as a portion of my business, or a large portion of it, is families. That's about 75%. The rest of the 25%, weddings. So that year, there were 22 weddings on my schedule for 2020. Mm-hmm. Only 9 actually happened. So a lot were rescheduled. They rescheduled the previous years. And you had, as a business owner, I had my contract say pretty much your deposit is non-refundable. That saves me for that date. Mm-hmm. Then you pay the rest over the course of time. Well, some brides and grooms just flatly canceled their wedding, and rightfully so, for whatever reason. So as a business owner, do I feel bad and give them that large deposit back because we're in the middle of a pandemic? I had to make a lot of hard decisions who I would apply towards, a family session in the future, or a future wedding date, or give that money back to them. There are a couple instances where I gave the money back to them. But for the most part, I'm like, well, we can still do something in the future and work together. It was hard to take that deposits and take it as a loss.
Yeah, I'm sure it was going to be a catch-22 for you in most cases, because if you don't give the money back, especially in this case of online reviews,
right,
you're going to get the big. I guarantee the review would have been, "It's a pandemic. I can't believe they stuck us with that." Like, they're just going to go, even though it's in the contract. This is you're 100% right not to refund it. Is it worth the hit to the reputation of the company to do that? And that's a decision you'd have to make. Yeah, it's even if you just did, look, I'll hold on to the deposit when you reschedule the wedding.
Yep.
I'll still you'll hold me for that date. But there are going to be some unreasonable people that would be like, no, I want my money back, or whatever it is. Like, it was funny because my nephew got married. It was December 2020. And they were supposed to get married up in Laurel, and the venue because of Howard County shut down the venue, and so they couldn't. That venue though gave back the deposit, fortunately, and what they ended up doing was they actually they found a venue down in Calvert County. So it was weird because in this state it was county by county. The different restrictions. Like in Anne Arundel County, I don't think they could have done it. Howard County, they couldn't do it. But in Calvert, down in this barn, and I say barn loosely because it was a really nice barn. Like, this was never used for horses and cows. This is used as a wedding venue.
Yep.
Looking like a barn, right?
Yep, sure.
But it was gorgeous.
Sure.
But for them, they were able to find that venue last minute. And they were able to take the deposit and use that to pay for that venue, which was great. Unfortunately for the original venue, they're never going to see any additional business from that unless someone who knows that story goes and books them in the future because of what they did for this young couple. And I think that's probably the benefit of doing that, something like that, because someone associated with that wedding, even if it doesn't happen there, maybe down the line you get future business because someone's going to be like, look, you did right by my nephew.
Yep.
Maybe I'll hold my daughter's sweet 16 there.
I think there's something to be said as far as being a small business owner and, having that long-term relationship with those clients, whether it's, a restaurant and you have repeat business, or whether you're a venue and, there's going to be subsequent either referrals. You've kind of got to, if you can, and you have that ability. I mean, I was fortunate that I didn't have to apply for, like one of the loans. Right. That I was able to use my husband and his income and mine as a supplemental income, that I chose not to, because so many of my I'm going to say coworkers or friend or colleagues.
People in the business.
Yes. They had to keep their venues open. They had to keep their restaurants open. They had their DJ business. I mean, that was their livelihood, how they were providing, food for their families, and they were not working.
Yeah. My next, moving on to my next question, is going to be like impact on your bottom line in 2020. Yeah. 2020 was the first year. It sounds like you were lucky enough. Weddings were only about 20%, 25% of your business. Yep. But even for a time there, you couldn't even do the outdoor sessions.
No.
So, imagine someone who doesn't have someone else making. What if you were on your own? That's your entire income.
Right.
Just getting shot. And we were talking about the PPP loans. That was probably the worst run thing I've ever seen in my life because of who ended up benefiting from it. Like, I forgot which corporation it was, but they ended up getting like millions of those PPP loans.
Oh yeah,
and to the point where they got shamed.
Right?
Was it Harvard?
Yeah, there were. So I don't remember who it was, but I know that. And then there was also people, because they didn't investigate who was getting them. They were just, we'll investigate the fraud later. And there were people that formed, like, they would form an LLC on the 15th and apply for the PPP loan on the 16th.
Yep. Yeah, there was a lot of scam. Like, what didn't Clinton Portis or something, like a couple of ex-football players?
Yeah.
Didn't they just get like convicted of that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, who were those guys? Yeah, I don't remember.
It was Clinton Portis and some other people, I think, or maybe it was someone else. But like they literally created this LLC, applied for a PPP loan, and they were in such a rush to get the money out. They got a loan. I mean, they had they had no business. They just formed an LLC and said, "Oh, we need like $15 million," and I think they got like $3 million.
Yeah, because they weren't verifying anything. I think it was under $5 million or something. They weren't verifying anything. They just wanted to get the money out. So, and the worst thing, like, this is all it's all printed money anyway, and it's all taxpayer funded, and it's just the people who are supposed to be the stewards of that money are now just making it rain.
Yeah.
In the
I mean, imagine, like, they caught a few people, but imagine the people they didn't catch.
Oh yeah.
I mean, and unfortunately, a lot of the money didn't go to folks like yourself. Like someone, like if they could have done a PPP loan, and a lot of these loans got forgiven, by the way, so they end up being grants. Imagine if you could have applied for that and then had 3 to 6 months covered, where I got to imagine, like, even if it was just 25% of your business gone, the amount of stress that has to cause, and never mind the fact now you're having to do reschedules, reschedules of reschedules, reschedules of reschedules. Like, you're literally having to reschedule the same event 3 to 4 times because you don't know when that county is going to lift these restrictions. So just the stress of it alone.
Right.
You've got the income reduction.
Yep.
Then you've got the stress of having to keep rescheduling.
Sure.
Never mind the fact that I'm sure for weddings, you're probably scheduled out maybe a week or two in advance. I'm sorry, a month or two or a year or two in advance.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes like a year and a half,
Like,
2 years, right?
Typically 12 to 18 months.
So you can't just keep rescheduling people tomorrow.
Right.
To tomorrow, because you've got people scheduled for tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
So now you're
There were
trying to
sometimes
squeeze
holes in the schedule, like, hey, a bride called up, hey, can you put July 21st and August 23rd, so 2 prime dates, on the books as a temporary, because we don't know what's going on right now.
Right. And of course you can't do that.
Right.
Because then you're losing one of those dates she's going to cancel, guaranteed.
Well, there's also already other
not both.
clients already booked on those dates.
Right.
So now, well, you can't. How about Friday night? How about a Thursday?
Right,
How about a Sunday?
And you're pretty much, for a wedding, I imagine you're pretty much on the hook for that whole day.
Sure.
So, because like when we got married, it was, I think we had the wedding during the day, then we had a break, and then a later reception. And so it wasn't like wedding, then reception. And then the wedding was in one town and the reception was in a completely different place.
Yep.
And like our photographers, like, it's not like she could have gone and done something else during that time period. She was with us for that entire day. And then now someone's asking for 2 days. And then you have someone else, well, now I got one on that day already.
Yep.
And I get trying to hedge your bet, but yeah, you pay me twice, I'll do it.
So I had a destination wedding up in Rhode Island. I bought a flight for. I had booked a hotel for. I had a wedding that I was contractually obligated to shoot. And you didn't know if they were going to shut down airports again or not let you fly, or how many times that I flew with masks and shields and gloves and not knowing what I was potentially bringing back as well, or what I was bringing to the next client.
Mm-hmm.
Especially Rhode Island had some of the stricter restrictions.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, "Oh, the governor there is doing a great job," and it sounds like she did.
Raimondo.
Yeah, but the impact. I don't think the impact is going to be fully known from all the restrictions,
Right.
because people just aren't sure about how many businesses went under. And I know some people, like people that don't own a business, and like Mike and I said, we don't own businesses, but if you work so hard to start a business, starting a business is tough. But if you get to the point where, okay, now you've got the referrals coming in, you're fully booked, you're not having to spend a lot of energy doing the advertising anymore. People come to you now. And then this thing comes along where someone's deciding who's essential, who's not essential, who gets to stay open, who doesn't get to stay open. And a lot of small businesses don't have 6 months of expenses saved up. Or if they're using it for their lives, for their mortgages, for their car payments, they don't have that money saved up. And I don't think people really understood that impact of it because there were a lot of businesses, restaurants in particular, because nobody could go and do indoor dining anymore for a long time. A lot of people went out of business, and I've heard from some people like it can crush an entire family if your business goes under. It can cause strain on relationships, marriages, kids, everything.
Well, I think a lot of people have a misconception. They think, oh, a business owner, they're rich. And like the mom and pop business is not like the dry cleaner or the restaurant. Like they're going paycheck to paycheck like the rest of us are.
Yeah.
And their margins are so thin, especially like in the food industry, like, you know, and then everyone's using the delivery apps, which essentially they just take the profit that the restaurant was going to make because the margins are so thin. So once the delivery app takes their cut, now they're cooking the food for free.
Right.
And, you know, then people build these businesses. It's not something that, you know, it's a life. Imagine your life's work just gone like that. And that's your retirement too, because you're hoping that it's just your kids take it over and then they support you in your old age.
So I found that a lot of the photographers, like I just went to a 3-day photography conference, and we really got a chance to kind of talk to each other. You know, what did COVID look like for you, and how has your business sort of pivoted, or how it had to pivot during time? I mean, I know one photographer that was doing Zoom headshots. Literally, he would take, you know, his Photoshop skills. Mm-hmm. I mean, you really had to kind of reinvent yourself, and kind of the creative industry, you know, like how can I better assist my potential customer right now? He would take a shot on Zoom, mask it, edit it out, and give it a clean background because people needed new headshots or didn't have a social media presence prior. And now they're always in front of a screen mm-hmm. and needed a... So it was interesting to see. And there are a lot of people that lost their shirts. Yeah. And, you know, are now in a different form of housing or a different form of relationship. It really affected, you know, because you're a creative, you work by yourself. Mm. There's not really like, hey, teammates and coworkers. So they were kind of like out there, and like the mental health side of a small business owner really takes a hit when something like this happens.
We talked about the mental health aspects of COVID in the last podcast episode. The one that just went out. We're recording this on Tuesday, so it went out today. Yeah. So this won't come out next week. So when people hear this, it's the the week prior. But it was funny you talked about the delivery apps. So I'm sure a lot of people have seen the Domino's ad. Yeah. Where they went and they bought, I guess Domino's corporate gave money to the franchisees across the country to go buy gift cards for other small restaurants in the area. Now, on the surface of this, it sounds great, right? Because, Domino's, they're doing something right. And I'm sure they are to an extent because, yes, it does add money to these local restaurants, not affiliated with chains. It's a really nice thing to do. But what they don't tell you is Domino's took such a hit because now almost every restaurant in the area now delivered food. Mm-hmm. So like in this area, Domino's, Papa John's, Pizza Hut, those were the delivery options. We had no other delivery options. Now, I'd say we have no less than 20 options through DoorDash. 20. I can get Thai food. I can get sushi. I can get burgers. I can get sandwiches. I can even get Chick-fil-A. Yeah. Chick-fil-A doesn't deliver here. DoorDash does.
Interesting.
And Five Guys.
Five Guys delivers here.
It's going to cost you $100, but you can get it.
But fried food really doesn't travel well, guys. It has like a shelf life of 6 to 7 minutes to need to be eaten.
Now, my wife seems to think that you can go and like run through the drive-thru and then go do it. No. If you go through the drive-thru, you're tending to eat that at home, you must go directly home. There's no other stops. No. Don't stop at the supermarket. No. You know, French fries don't last. No. They need to be eaten fresh. And they can't be in a styrofoam container.
They don't even last until you get home. No. Gone in the car.
Well, I like to hold off. I like to delay my gratification. I do. Until I get home.
I got to admit, a Five Guys burger that's come to my house still tastes great. Uh-huh. The French fries is a little bit soggy, but guess what? The French fries from Five Guys, little kind of flimsy
Pop them
anyway.
in the air fryer.
But they're still great.
True
Give 'em a little
story.
fluff.
It's still great though. And look, I can get sandwiches, and it's not just from like Subway. I'm talking like you can go get, if you want sandwiches from like any sub shop around here, they're probably on DoorDash. Pizza, I don't have to get Domino's pizza anymore. I can get, there's 2 local
You get
pizza places.
Spizzico.
You got Spizzico, you got Spizzico. We have
Bella.
You can get Squisitos and Bella Italia now. So it's like the commercial makes it sound like Domino's doing this great thing, but all they're doing is they're saying, don't use those delivery apps. We gave money to these restaurants because we're doing the right thing. Oh, by the way, our business went down by 50% because people could get delivery from somewhere else.
Right, someplace better.
And we're getting our crap pizza anymore. They could go get good pizza delivered, and then the delivery fee is what, an extra $7-8 maybe. You tip the driver between 5 and 10, so for an extra $14 I don't gotta go out.
Well, on my birthday in 20, so my favorite pizza is a ham and onion pizza.
Ham and onion.
Ham and onion.
Okay.
So
It's delicious.
all I
a
wanted.
little pineapple. I'll call it a deal.
Yeah,
No.
Listen, you don't want to get that. You don't want to get someone started on the pineapple. I do. I love the ham. I love the Hawaiian.
Yeah, sure. No.
Anti.
Yeah,
Okay.
no fruit on
over there.
pizza. No fruit and beer either. So,
I agree with you.
so I, on my birthday, decided my wife said, what do you want for your birthday? Like, you know what? Everything's crazy, because my birthday was in June, so everything still was kind of crazy. I said, let's just get a ham and onion pizza and the one place didn't answer the phone, so I get it from the other spot via one of the delivery apps. I'm convinced this dude carried the pizza under his arm. All of the cheese had slid to one.
How
I'm
disappointing
We've
is a
had that happen,
birthday
too.
meal?
I'm like, what is this? Like, half the pizza had no cheese on it at all, and then the rest of the cheese wasn't even still on the pizza. Like, it was in the box.
Did you pay for that thing?
Yeah, I mean,
You pay, like, you're paying up front.
Wait,
It's- 'cause
didn't you
that
call?
was-
Didn't you call the restaurant?
oh,
and
they
You
never.
think they're gonna take responsibility for the DoorDash driver?
Yeah,
customer service.
Get out of here.
yeah, yeah. So that was my my disappointment. So that now it's like
Horrible birthday dinner.
Yeah,
Your wife really better up her game this year.
Well, you know,
Can't
she
really blame her. She didn't deliver it.
right, but she should have gone to get it.
Well, you know.
Okay, sorry,
If
girl.
you're listening to this, I was under
apologize
duress.
it-
I was under duress.
I thought that was an hysterical move by Domino's. They're like the philanthropy that they were putting out there. Maybe not so much, but yeah, it was. I felt bad, especially because I think it was Harvard. Like, Harvard's like the most elite of elite schools. Has an endowment of some small countries. They didn't need a PPP loan to keep them afloat. And not that I'm one of those people, like, look, capitalism is capitalism.
I'm
I get
surprised
it.
Dan Snyder didn't get one.
He might have. You never know. I don't think people are going to know the full extent to the whole PPP loan situation for a long time to come. Until someone, because there's no investigative journalism right now, unless it's
No.
like some fringe group or something. I mean, what was that? Project Veritas was trying to do some investigative journalism.
FBI kicked his
and
door
the FBI
in.
just kicked his door in, and the New York Times knew about it as it was happening.
It just happened to be there.
The guy literally got a phone call while he was in the handcuffs at his house, saying, "Hey, we heard you got raided by the FBI." Yeah, it's happening now. How'd you know? It was supposed to be sealed.
It's insane.
Not saying there's some collusion going on there. Not saying someone's working together. But, you know, one can infer.
Yeah, I mean, we have eyes and ears. You can see things and hear things. But
Yeah. And the funny part of what it's about is, like, I guess they were trying to say, like, he got it was a diary from the president's daughter that someone gave to him, and he didn't like it. Like, he was like, this is not what I do. I'm not going to publish this. So he voluntarily tried to give it to the FBI. Like, he said, look, I don't know who to give this to. I'll just give it to you, the FBI. Here you go. and I guess like they wouldn't take it, and so I think like 3 months later they kick in his door. It's like, wait, so the only people out there doing investigative journalism are all of a sudden now getting, they're getting a little more scrutiny.
Sure.
But I mean, I digress. Well, that's a little way off the
more meandering
beaten path there. But no, I guess my point for that was there's so few people now doing actual investigative journalism that I don't know if we're going to find out a lot of information into what exactly is going on for years to come.
Right.
Or light
that's
up on
unfortunate.
somebody's Substack and no one will read it. So.
Right. That's another thing. A lot of these people that used to write for the New York Times and the Washington Post, they've left. I think the most popular one was Barry Weiss. Barry Weiss was a big name at the New York Post.
Matt Taibbi.
Matt Taibbi as well. But Barry Weiss was fairly liberal.
Yeah, she was an editor with the New York Times.
Yeah. And I guess she had an issue with the whole Tom Cotton issue. So Tom Cotton wrote an op-ed, sent it to the New York Times, and they printed it. And apparently the New York Times op-ed room just went up in arms that they would actually print something from Tom Cotton because Tom Cotton's a Republican. New York Times is a liberal organization. Mm-hmm. And they ran it, and apparently, like, internal to the New York Times, I guess it was a really big deal, where people threatened to walk out. And Barry Weiss was like, "This isn't what we do. Like, we're a news organization. This was an op-ed. We print these things. We don't hide it." And so she ended up leaving. She started her own Substack, I think, as well. But even people like Matt Taibbi, Glenn Greenwald. Glenn Greenwald, the guy is now labeled as a right-wing journalist. The man is a gay male who is a Democrat, who is now labeled alt-right because he's not buying into all of the narratives. And it's strange. Like, if you espouse anything different from what the New York Times or Washington Post says that you should espouse, they're just cutting people off one at a time, or they're just leaving on their own, saying this is not what I signed up for. Because we talk about Jimmy Dore, and even now Bill, and we talked about this a couple episodes ago. Bill Maher is now starting to be like, "Whoa, wait a minute!
Yeah,
You're all getting," and everyone. I mean, have you heard of Bill Maher? Politically incorrect show, and now he's got Real Time with Bill Maher. It's been on HBO for forever. Very liberal, but liberal in the classical sense, like believes in like single payer healthcare, like that kind of stuff. And he's like, what is, like, the information that's coming out is crazy. Like, he went on Jimmy Kimmel and he said that 50% of Democrats believed, 60% of Democrats believed if you got COVID, you had a 50% shot of being hospitalized. Actual number is 2%.
Yeah, I got it. I'm fine.
You're looking strong.
I'm a survivor.
Looking good.
I'm a survivor.
But that's a huge disparity when 60% of a demographic believes that
50%.
that you're what, 20 times more likely to go into the hospital from this thing than you actually are. Like, he was like, it's becoming the fear propaganda. But it's a weird thing. But like, even with going back to small businesses or businesses in general, I think they kind of did that a little. Like, the not only were there the restrictions, but because people are a little bit less likely to leave their house in general to support businesses in general. Like, let's say you had a family that would normally sign up for a family photo shoot with you.
Sure.
Some of those families, it might not be many, but even let's say you have 50 families and 5 say, you know what, we're gonna bow out because of this thing going on, because of all of the media we're consuming on our side and obviously they wouldn't say this, but we have the fear of God of this thing. And we've always said this, it's not a bad virus. but the impacts are much less than what people are being led to believe in some cases. Mm-hmm. In fact, in most cases. I mean, everyone hears about the worst case scenario.
Right.
Everybody. But again, if someone thinks they're 15 or 20 times more likely to end up in the hospital with this thing than they really are, they're going to be that much more likely not to leave their house and do things. They're not going to come to that session with you.
So I don't necessarily agree with that.
Really?
Because I found as soon as the restrictions that you were allowed to go outside, obviously for the time that we weren't allowed to or not be near people, but as soon as that became available that you could go to somebody's house and mask up and photograph their newborn, I probably had one of my best years in 2020 because also people were so stuck at home and not doing activities and had maybe a little bit more funds they ended up putting towards their end of summer and fall sessions. You know, as far as the restrictions with the weddings, they still wanted to have the weddings. There was a lot less people and sort of the important people were put into an A, B, and C list. Mm-hmm. But the weddings that could happen did happen, or they were rescheduled. I mean,
did you have anyone that canceled because they were terrified of the virus itself, or if they even came out and said it?
Because numbers went up for that month.
So right off the get-go, sure. Mostly it was weddings, which were mandatory. It's not like they wanted it to happen. They wanted these weddings to happen, but there were so many restrictions, or you had to be masked, or vaccines weren't out yet. But as far as it was some newborn sessions that were like, no, we're not going to have you come into our home. We don't know what you've been exposed to or where your family's been. And this is even after, you know, they were born in March, and some of these babies didn't have newborn sessions until June.
That's a lot of Photoshop, by the way.
Is that a newborn session at that point?
Yes, it's still a newborn. It's still a newborn.
Benjamin Button.
Yeah. Oh no, they're still tiny and super sweet.
So here's the picture I took of the baby when it actually was a newborn. Can you crop this off and stick it on this one?
You know, a lot of photographers, they had pivoted and they were teaching families how to photograph their own newborns at their own homes.
Wow.
There was an amazing photographer locally named Jennifer Casey, who's really brilliant with...
I know her husband.
Yes,
Pat. Yeah, me and Pat used to drive home together.
Awesome. You know, she was walking her amazing clients through, you know, she can't come, so I'm going to show you. This is how you pose the child. Have that child, you know, be near a window light. I mean, there were a lot of ways that we were trying to provide a service for customers that you were just kind of been given roadblocks.
I forget which kid it was. It may have been the middle one. And we tried to do it and it was a disaster. And then we tried to do Christmas ones.
Yep.
And all we did was fight. It was just such a miserable experience. And here I am with I think I had my father-in-law holding like a, you know those work lights that you like hang on something? Mm-hmm. It's got like the metal cage around it. I'm like, hold this. And like someone else has a sheet. I'm like,
we're trying to do your own family photos?
Oh, it was just, and I think they were, this is one of the third one. It was like 5'2" and an infant. And like, this is a complete disaster. So we scrubbed that mission. So the marriage survived, but.
I wonder if a lot of businesses came back stronger, or do you think that, I mean, were there photographers you knew that went out of business completely?
I know that there were a few DJs.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of the creatives, well, I know the photography side has come back, and actually 2021 was probably their most profitable year yet.
But did some of them go? I mean, did some of them go out of business?
Definitely. So, I totally think so.
Or
they had to get, I don't want to say regular jobs, but sort of that 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, and still be able to maintain where they would have been able to go full-time with their video, DJ, photography. Now we're having to pick up another job.
The reason why I bring that up is because I wonder if the photographers that remain in business now are getting more of the business because there are fewer remaining. You know what I mean?
So, yes and no. I think there are a lot more photographers now because I think a lot of people either lost their jobs and had to pivot and said, hey, I'm going to go into business for myself. Let me see if I can make this work.
That's a great point.
Got completely burnt out with their their commute or what sort of impact that it was having on their family, and came into effect. Okay, let me see if I can make a go at this. Let me see if I can provide an income for my family.
Yeah, I didn't think
and
about that.
start something new.
Almost using it as an opportunity to
Sure.
It's a
like you get
springboard.
forced to do it. So
Right.
now that I don't have my job, whatever that I hate anyway,
Yep.
let me go back, and I kind of dabbled in this on the side. Like, let's go all in on it.
Yeah, yeah.
We got to realize a lot of us who had trying to run these small businesses and also having small children at home, trying to still run your business, but run it now
With a school,
with a school in your home. And
Right, yeah.
having, like, my husband's a federal worker. He's still home since March 13th, 2020. He has not gone back to the DC office. And not quite sure when that's going to happen. So between everybody home, it was hard to kind of figure out what your new normal, your
Like,
now normal.
Yeah,
I got to imagine you had the people that were laid off. Some of them probably realized that they like being home with their kids. And they're like, well, I can do this from home.
Yep.
I'm going to leave that job.
Yep.
Or even the ones that were sent home to telework, right?
Yep.
Like, well, I like being home. This business I'm working for wants me to come back to the office. I'm just not down with that.
Yep.
I'm going to turn my side hustle into my full-time hustle.
Yep.
And this is now my new thing.
Yep.
And I think that happened for a lot of people.
Sure.
I mean, there were a lot of catering businesses that did that.
Yep.
A lot of them pivot to the at-home food delivery.
Sure.
There was someone that I know. They're making food out of one of the local rec youth sports places. They've got a facility with a kitchen.
Commercial kitchen.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so they ended up renting the space of that kitchen, and they made a full go of a catering business. And like he said that from after week 3, it was gangbusters. Like they were turning down jobs even without weddings.
Yep.
They were basically making all these meals, and then they were having somehow they figured out the delivery aspect of it, or they would go to one place, people come pick it up. It was crazy, but they found a way to do at-home food delivery because people still wanted to do. They wanted good meals. They wanted to go out to eat. They didn't want to make dinner, and this was before DoorDash was even popular. And these catering companies were able to pump out big meals where they could feed 15 to 20 families, and that was more than enough for them to make ends meet. And that's how they ended up making the business out of it. It was crazy.
See a lot of people pivoting, like I said, and I I think it's more the small business owners that have employees that were impacted, even more so than maybe like a solopreneur. That I'm just worrying about myself and not having to worry about, my employees and having them get their livelihoods just disappear. So having a lot of these people kind of pivot their path and where they're taking their business.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's got to be, especially for a small storefront.
Right.
I mean, I'm trying to think of Franklin's Toys down the road. When they weren't allowed to have people in the store. I mean, that store does mostly, I think, in-person sales, right? They don't have a very big online presence at all.
No, that's one of the few stores where we take the kids there every now and then, and I try to minimize their exposure, mainly because everything in there costs an arm and a leg.
Yeah, but it's so good.
And they want all of it.
I'm going to surprise you here. Some of the stuff there, the prices beat Amazon.
Oh, yeah?
Their Lego stuff is on par or less than Amazon.
Oh, wow.
I had to check that because my kids like the Legos. My nieces like the Legos. But even sketch pads and artsy stuff, it's hard to beat Franklin's Toys on price. Now, some of their other stuff, you're right.
Yeah, because they have
The ride-on pony. Yeah,
and
you're going to pay a little bit more for that.
The Playmobil stuff, that's just expensive anyway.
Right. But one part of their business model was you would go in there, you buy the toy, and they wrap it for you. Mm-hmm. Which for me,
huge benefit.
that's a huge benefit. I hate wrapping stuff.
I typically buy my kids birthday parties that they have to go to. I go specifically to Franklin Toys so I can be like, hey, can you wrap that? Because we are 10 minutes late to this birthday party.
That's the best part. You can go You can go like 20 minutes before the party.
Yep.
Go in there, pick a toy. They'll wrap it for you. You're off to the party. You don't got to do it ahead of time. It's great.
Wow.
So that's part of. I mean, they don't charge you anything for it. So now, like during the restrictions, people can't go in, and they have pretty much no online presence. I got to imagine. I mean, they're still open, but I wonder how much of a hit they took. Didn't they? I wonder if they actually closed down a location. I know they've got the Annapolis one and they've got the Severna Park one, but I thought they had one more and I think that one closed. And I don't remember. I could be dead wrong on that. It didn't help. I think they got robbed in Annapolis too. That probably didn't help.
No.
That's a tough shopping center sometimes.
Where is that one?
The
Festival at Riva.
That's a tough shopping center?
There's definitely some riffraff that walk around from some of the buildings and high rises next door to it.
Panera Bread?
You never know. Gangbusters.
Yeah, they're hanging out at Panera and the other coffee shop down the way.
Ceremony.
My kids will murder someone for some Panera mac and cheese. Like, they will straight up murder someone.
I haven't been to Panera in forever.
They love that mac and cheese.
I love it. It's free Wi-Fi. I can sit and do business there.
Then everyone steals your...
Oh, gosh.
I used to go to...
What's the name of that private web service again?
That's why you need a VPN, private internet access. dumbidea.podcast.com. Click on the link. Get yourself a VPN.
There's
best thing you do.
How's that for a segue?
Right?
Listen,
I need to look into this now.
I go into Starbucks. Like I would go into the Starbucks up in Severna Park before it. Like now you can't even get a seat anywhere. But I used to go there because I work from home, and I've been working from home before COVID. And there was just some days like these four walls in this house would just creep in on you. So I go to Starbucks. I think I went there for like a week straight. And then the second week I started going there. It's like, I can't keep listening to Ani DeFranco. I'm gonna just blow myself up. So I had to get out of there. But while I was there though, my VPN was on the entire time.
Well, that's like, so they play obnoxious music and then Chipotle plays some, like I'm convinced Chipotle puts awful music in to make you eat and get the F out.
Yeah.
Like,
Are there even seats in Chipotle?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you got
A few.
a few.
Yeah.
I mean, there's probably like 10, 15 seats max.
Yeah. But you go in there and it's like this awful, like new age with a lot of bass and I'm just, but you know what? I'm
Just helps the scoop in.
Yeah, I'm gonna stay
Keeps
here.
that line moving.
I'm gonna
Do
stay
that
here
quarter
in spite
cup.
of
Do
it.
that quarter cup on the beat. On the beat.
Right.
But yeah, I'll just stay there in spite of it.
The Starbucks music just makes you depressed.
Oh,
It's like it's eventually like every once in a while they do the I want to hurt myself.
the thing is,
It's like, oh my god, I gotta get out of here.
nobody.
That's why I pop my headphones in every time I go work somewhere at a coffee shop.
Right.
I can listen to my own music.
Noise canceling headphones. The thing is,
I feel like they turn it up though when you're in there to go over your like just we're gonna get it in there. We're gonna make sure he hears it over top of his earphones.
no one listens to that music voluntarily. There are people that they're pretentious people that would like you to think that they do, but no one actually listens to that music. I'm convinced.
Imagine the torture chamber would be like if you go into the coffee shop and they just play Nickelback on like just every Nickelback.
You can play Photograph.
Over and over again. Just over. Like it's like all three Nickelback records on a loop, and you can't get away from it. Or Imagine Dragons. Remember that? Do you remember Imagine Dragons?
How about Creed?
Oh, now you're going down a dark hole there. I remember Imagine Dragons at like the Super Bowl, and they just got ripped for it. It was like
What was that song? Thunder?
Yes, that was the one they did.
Yep.
And it was awful. In an arena.
My children know those words to that song because it's played on Alexa half a dozen times a day.
Listen, there are some songs that are great on the radio,
Yep.
not in an arena.
Nope.
Not in front of 90,000 people at the Super Bowl. It just doesn't cross over. You know what I mean? And so, like, I just remember, like, wow. Like, I'm watching, like, I used to like this song. This is hurting my ears a little bit. And the visual's no better. My eyes are bleeding.
Okay, well then here's a question for you. What would be your theme song if you were coming out of an arena?
Like a walk.
As you're a pro athlete, what's your theme song when you're walking into the arena?
I thought you were going to say if we were coming out as gay. Well, you know. Something to Elton John.
It's like your walk-up song.
What
So
is it?
in baseball, they call it your walk-up song.
Okay,
So when
what's
you
your
walk up
walk-up
to
song?
plate, you have a couple. God, I can't. I can. It is the. God, they're local. It's a local country band.
I got it. While you're thinking,
Yeah.
because I get high by Afro Man. Not that I smoke. I don't endorse that kind of behavior.
That conduct.
But with my hairstyle,
It's a little fluffy today.
I got a fluffy do, and I would die laughing every time I walked up to the plate if Afro Man because I got high came on. That'd just be awesome for me. What did you figure out the song you were looking for?
Yeah, no, I'm. What's yours?
It would be "Lose Yourself" by Eminem.
Okay.
That's aggressive.
Yeah.
Coming
Well,
in.
you know, hey, listen, I got to get my game on if
Gotta
I
get hyped.
play.
Gotta
Yes.
get hyped up.
Yes.
I'm
So-
telling you, that song will hype you up.
Yeah, well.
So there's one which is by Chris Stapleton, Hard Living.
I just listened to, I think it was a Dateline or a documentary about him last night.
The dude's awesome.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Did they set him up for?
He was
hooking up with it?
valedictorian of
Yep.
his high school and went on to college and at Vanderbilt, I think, and then dropped out. And just the way that he's approached his business and how he looks so humble.
And then we'll see. The thing is, he was a songwriter for a lot of these artists.
Like over 1,000 songs, he said.
And then he never felt comfortable performing because of the way he looks. And then someone was finally like, "Dude, you're too good to like." And he can't. He started playing, and he's been huge. I first saw him on a Saturday Night Live of all places. And the other one is the Brothers Osborne, "Shoot Me Straight." Is
Country.
yeah, oh yeah.
So you're a country.
No, I have very eclectic tastes in music,
Okay.
but yeah. Now I have another one by Big Sean, but it just depends on this game situation.
Okay.
When you were talking about like Chris Stapleton though, and you went to Dateline, I thought you were going to go in a completely different direction.
I think it was Dateline. Maybe it wasn't
I was watching
Dateline.
Dateline, and he got set up for talking to kids on the internet. Like,
No,
ooh,
not at all.
that's not really what we want to do here.
Then what's his name came out from the kitchen?
Right.
Chris.
Yeah, didn't he get busted for it too?
Did he really?
Oh, how horrible.
Wow.
Oh,
Talk about irony.
Yeah. So, So I guess we probably should have asked you this like prior to us starting. How did you get into photography? Because I think some people there's a lot more to it, as I found out when I was trying to take a picture of my kids.
Sure.
And it's a lot more than just portrait mode on the phone,
right.
which is a nice hack. Like you can cheat big time with that thing.
They'll put me out of business. Portrait mode sometimes. So I had a background in sales and marketing and special events. We were living in Boston. We were in San Francisco before we moved to this area. And I was on top of my game. I loved what I did. I worked in the wedding industry. I had one baby. We moved to Annapolis and took some time off, had a second baby, and lost my mind. Like, don't get me wrong. I had always thought I'd always wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, but this was tough. I did not.
This isn't PG.
I did not understand the identity of mom. Like, I knew who Danielle Lawrence was. I knew what my reputation, my occupation was. So it got to a point where my husband is like, dude, you need to go feed your soul. Like, go pick up that camera, which was a hobby for probably 15 years, and go play with it. And I very slowly started, my demographic was, I was a mother to 2 young children at the time. One was, God, I think she was maybe 6 or 9 months when I started. And the other one was about 3.5. And it got me out of the house a little bit. And I do these, practically giving away a ton of photos. But I understood the business side. Mm-hmm. It was really just the technical side of understanding this camera. And by the end of 6 months, I kind of had started a business that was more than part-time. It was almost full-time. And my demographics were families, and it really organically and beautifully turned into a business. And by the end of the first year, I was rolling. It was full-time. I knew how to work, clients and networking and putting people together, and still knowing weddings. I was dabbling with second shooting, and I'm like, oh gosh, now I got to up my gear. So I had to, invest in better cameras. And, and the third year came around. I mean, at this point in the spring, it'll be 6 years I've been in business, and I think 4 years as an LLC.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been a really, like I said, organic sort of process, changing over, still giving myself a purpose other than mom.
Mm-hmm.
It gets me out of the house, got me out of the house when everybody was in the house. It's been awesome.
Speaking of which, I know. So how you met us?
Yep.
So this is not the first time we've met. Let's just put that out there.
No.
We've known you for at least 4 or 5 years.
I think
6?
I met your wife in.
It was the cult. you met her. You met her and Mike's wife in the cult.
I did. I met Sherry was the first, like one of the first people I met. I think it was January 2018. It was January 8th, 2018, to be honest. That's when our first class started. And I met Sherry that right after the little one was born.
Yeah.
Not Sherry, excuse me. Your wife,
Yeah.
right after the little one was born. Yep.
Yeah, because I remember. Yeah, because they were all big, like the cult was like the thing.
Well, that cult, I really think, propelled my business.
Right.
You know, here I am really understanding how to run a business. Where your core demographics? Where's my community? I'm in the middle of my community doing something for myself, and it's very naturally. I really didn't say what I did for a while. I kind of kept it hidden because I wanted to be known for Danielle.
Right.
I'm working out. Mm-hmm. I'm not a photographer. I didn't want to put that at the forefront. And I remember it took about 3 or 4 months before I kind of opened up. Hey, I didn't want that to lead.
Yeah.
I mean, so the cult, for people that don't know, so there was a group called Fit for Mom, but the husbands of the wives that were in this,
It had a local chapter.
Yeah, we called that the cult. And come to find out, the funny part was whenever one husband would meet another husband, like if the ladies got together and the husbands, they were putting their husbands together in like a little play date. They're like, so your wife's in the cult? You call it the cult too? like I think everyone did when they got together and went, what do you mean it's a cult? It's not a cult. It was such a cult.
It was everything that a mother didn't know you needed.
Right.
You know, a sense of community, still being able to work out whether you were really working out or whether you were there just for the friendships. Because being a mother is a very lonely job if you're stuck home and with multiple kids or if you're not working.
Oh, I've often said that because when the first one was born, like it was kind of like, she had to make a call, like, does she want to stay home? And I kind of knew, like, as soon as she saw that baby, she was staying home. And then she made the call and decided to stay home. And then and then when I stay home with the kids, I think to myself, like, if the tables were turned and her income was higher than mine when the kids were born,
Mm-hmm.
oh, my only thing was, like, let me break even on daycare and gas. I don't care if I work for free. Like, mm-hmm. That would be my thing. But, no, it's hard, and then and now mine are older, so like there's no diapers anymore and things like that. But it's still like, daddy, like my name is Mike. Stop. I don't want to call. Like I'll get a work call. I'm like, oh, thank God.
I'm gonna be honest. So as someone who worked from home,
Yep.
When the kids and the wife ended up being home. Wife started working from home.
Yep.
Now the kids are home. I'm like, oh my God, one of these restrictions going away so they can all get out of the house. I want my silence back. Like I can only imagine if you can't make it go away, right? But so for me, when everyone went back to school, it was glory. I think I had a me day that day.
I haven't had that yet.
No?
Please tell me how it is. What stinks is that just when you think everything's going back and you're going back to your job and she's going back to work and the kids are going back to school, and then all of a sudden it's like boom, someone's got an exposure. Oh. Everyone's back home again. And I mean, that happened in the fall, like even with family, family sessions. I had 22 sessions on the books that week. And do you know how hard it is trying to get on the books in the middle of the fall season for a family photographer? And then you're telling me that I can't work for 7 days because my kid has a potential exposure that I've got to reschedule 22 sessions.
Yeah.
So, as far as getting back in the house again, oh God, this is like a never-ending hamster wheel. And you get those school letters right now. Hey, so-and-so in your class. Can't tell you if it's a class or just the grade. There's 3 potential exposures.
I don't even know why they send those things anymore. Just don't send them.
Yeah.
Gets me sick to my stomach.
Let me know if my kid can't come to school.
Yeah.
That's all I want. At this point, that's all I need to know.
We had 3 weeks and then Christmas break where one was home and then he went back and the other one got it and then I actually got it and then I was home. And it was just like this month period where it seemed like there was always someone home, and my wife finally has the little one off to preschool, so she has her own time during the day, Monday through Thursday, where she can do whatever, just her. And all of a sudden, nope, everyone's back, and I'm back too.
Everyone, and then some,
and we're all stuck here.
Yeah,
it's tough, especially like I said, going back to work. I'm so tightly masked up all the time because I don't want to give it to a potential client. Or gosh, weddings right now, there's weddings that I've done that nobody's wearing a mask and I'm like, damn people, there's 200 people here. I'm zipped up on 2 layers and KN95 mask and all the rest of the vendors are. And there's some weddings that you go to that you have to show a vaccine card now in DC after January 16th in order to go to a venue for a wedding.
Yeah,
so
we've talked about that. At this point, I think, I don't want to call it COVID fatigue, but I think I'm done with the masks. I'm like, look, especially with this variant that seems to be much milder than the previous ones. I've got 2 vaccines and a booster in me. If they do their job, and I get it, I should be fine.
You should be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I protected myself. If someone else decided not to get the vaccine and not protect themselves, it's not on me.
Right.
It's on them now.
So I'm very pro mask wearing. I'm pro vaccine. That's my stance. Mm-hmm. My children have both gotten the vaccines. They will get the booster in time. I'm petrified about potentially giving it to someone I love, whether they have had the vaccine or not. Mm-hmm. Some of them have underlying conditions. And I'm like, hot diggity dog. Okay, I got to protect myself and my clients and my family. Yeah. But I'm like, if I'm going to get it, I'm going to get it. It's going to get a mild case. God, hope. Knock on some wood. But I'm afraid to give it to somebody else who doesn't have that luxury.
Well, that's why when I had mine, like, we were supposed to go up to see her family, and we were going to leave Christmas Day.
Wait a minute, I was standing in line with her when I started walking in trying to get COVID tests.
Yeah, exactly. I ended up
I'm sorry, at-home tests.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so then when I was like, because that's what we were concerned about, and then because she wanted it for the kids.
Yep.
Well, then I ended up popping off positive, so that answered that question.
Yep.
But yeah, I'd feel awful so we just didn't go. Yep. I'm more like the type that I'm just not going to do things. If I have to, and the thing is, like, I hate the mask so much, like, I just won't go to play. I just won't do things. Like, I'll see people, like, at New Year's, they did there's a bunch of people wearing masks. Like, it's not worth it to me. I'm staying home.
To be honest with you, I never got going to Times Square.
No.
Like, that looks awful to me.
Everything about it looks awful.
Putting a cattle pen and not being able to pee for 15
awful.
hours? No thanks.
Right. And it's not like there's free beer there or anything. It's like you're just standing there on this side of the street to watch. I could do that from home.
The one great thing about COVID, and this is going to sound really bad, it gave me a reason to not go do the stuff I didn't want to do to begin with. Like, hey, they're having that party over there, doing that thing with all these people. Oh, COVID's going on.
I definitely think introverts got a bit more introverted.
I was very, it's funny because I've been done with it since, and we've talked about it on the show before, I've been done with it since after the 2020 Summer of Love, when everyone forgot about it And it was okay as long as you were protesting something to be together, but you couldn't go to see a baseball game. So I was like, I'm done with it.
It wasn't consistent. Just the message wasn't consistent. Yeah. Like you can go to a mass gathering for this, but not for this. I was like, well, you either can or you can't. All right, just like you can go to Walmart, but you can't go to the mom and pop shop, even if they restrict the number of people in their store.
Yeah,
it's like, come on. Like,
and
there was no science behind that. That part of it, like being able to go into a Walmart with 100 to 200 other people, but you can't go into like the mom and pop shop with 4 other people. Like, that doesn't make sense.
I just think it was so confusing on so many levels, and I mean there were so many different groups that you had to kind of navigate what was right at the time and what was wrong at the time. Right. What could we allow and what couldn't we allow? Where this is a little in the gray area, but this is black and white.
It just didn't seem like the restrictions were even.
No, they weren't. And to be honest, could they have been? I don't know. We were all no one knew what the heck this was and what we were dealing with.
And I think that the problem is that I had is once they started learning more, they never changed it. It just stayed. Yeah. But I used it as like hey, just like, let's go do this. Oh, can't do that. I'm afraid of COVID.
Right.
Like, wait, you're not afraid of it at all. Like,
no, I am now.
Yeah,
I'm terrified of it. Especially at that concert venue. I'm super terrified of it.
Yeah, I ended up going to that one. It was fun. It was fun.
I saw some pictures. It looked like a bag of fun. I saw some cheeks hanging out. Not those cheeks. Okay. Those cheeks. Hanging out.
Where'd you go?
I didn't go. Someone sent me a picture of what was going on.
At what concert?
It's a leg warmer band.
Leg warmer.
Have you heard of leg warmer band?
No.
Listen,
I moved here when I had young babies. I really didn't get out into the bar scene unless it was with both of your wives one night as we made our way down the street.
They make it an annual trip now. You should go next year.
Oh, you'd love it.
Wait a minute. Yes, I think your wife invited me. It was at the Opera House or somewhere in Baltimore.
It was at the Power Plant.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the leg warmer band is an 80s cover band. Yep. It is a blast. It's fun.
Well, I was born in the 70s, so 80s will be right around the time I was dancing in my bedroom.
Yeah. So no, when they played like Cyndi Lauper and all that. So.
Well, we're getting way off topic here. Anyway, I want to say thank you to Danielle Lawrence from DANIEPhotography.com. She's taken our family photos for at least the past 4 or 5 years, I think, at this point. They always come out great. We put them on our holiday cards. We've got them framed up around the house. She does great with kids. If you have small kids, Danielle's the person you need to call. She does great with kids. She took our whole family, 4 kids, 2 grandparents, one of which can be stubborn at times, 4 adults, 2 of which can be very stubborn at times. She handles all personalities, gets people in there, takes great photos. Call her, email her, get on her website, DANIEPhotography.com, DANIE photography.com. Schedule your next session. I guarantee you won't regret it. Thank you for stopping by. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I just want to end with, the one thing I learned out of the pandemic in my business is that, time is not guaranteed. And having those family photos, get them done. Don't wait, because you don't know what's going to happen to that family dynamic. You don't know if that family member may not be around next time. And I love doing family sessions, so I'm so honored that I get to do your family. So that was so much fun. And thank you for having me on and talking about how the business fared through.
And I'm a person who hates photography sessions, but I love the photographs that come out of it. So even if you're hesitant about wanting to do it, just do it once. You'll love the photographs you get out of it.
You'll go back and look at those babies.
She managed my 3 savages. Best pictures they've ever been taken of those kids.
Oh, they were so cute.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for listening, and we will see you next time.